Hey, good evening. Thanks for joining for a weekly Bible study. So glad to be able to come out here and give you a live shout out for those of you who are able to see live. Otherwise, we'll be posting on other platforms this video, and just love to have you at a time that's convenient for you. We are diving in deep tonight into the sea, where we're rocking and rolling with the Apostle Paul, who is a prisoner with 275 other people on this ship, many of which are prisoners. We've got sailors, we've got soldiers overseeing these prisoners, we got the captain, and they left port over in Crete. Gonna go one more stop and then hole up for the season, try and see if they can catch a break between storms. Paul said, don't go, and they went. Well, who's gonna listen to a prisoner anyway? We've got the owner of the ship who wants us there at a certain time. We've got a captain who's very experienced, and we've got a crew who knows what they're doing and just wants to get to the next port. So that's where we are. And Paul's being sent as a prisoner from Caesarea over to Rome to have a trial before Caesar. And he's not a criminal in the traditional sense, but he's been accused by the Jews of bringing people into the temple, the Jewish temple, who are not Jews. And the Jewish leaders are also opposing the teachings of Paul. They've accused him of defiling, of course, the temple. And so his life has been threatened. He heard about this from his nephew, who quietly came to the prison and said, hey, listen, they're coming to get you. The Sanhedrin is going to see you, the Sadducees and the Pharisees. They're wanting to talk it out. But on your way there, they're going to ambush you and kill you. So that's why Paul is in jail. He's been there for 3 years, and a new governor has come into town now. He's now overseeing Caesarea, and he says, hey, I don't want to go back to the Jews. I would much rather go and see Caesar. I'm a Roman citizen. So as they sail along the Mediterranean, dangerous seasonal conditions and are developing and have developed, and now they're getting tossed around for a couple weeks at sea, and it doesn't look like they're going to survive. This violent nor'easter comes in, and it drives the ship off course, way off course, for a couple of weeks, and eventually all hope for survival is lost. And in the middle of all this chaos, Paul reports that an angel has come to him at night, telling him, don't be afraid. You are going to go before Caesar, and everybody is going to survive. So in the last study, we talked about how to anchor your life when fear hits. So if you're interested in seeing that, go over to the page and just scroll over. You'll see it's called How to Anchor Your Life When Fear Hits. We look at Acts 27 verses 27 to 29. So for today, we are going to start out on Acts 27 verse 30. Thanks again for joining in. Some of the sailors wanted to leave the ship, and they lowered the lifeboat. These sailors wanted the other men to think that they were throwing more anchors from the front of the ship. Backstory. The last couple of verses here, Paul says, hey, don't worry. We're all going to survive. But then they were like, man, instinctually, something's different. Maybe it was the smell in the air. Maybe it was the way the waves were hitting the hull. But these sailors, experienced as they were, knew that there was a change. And so they decided to drop anchors to test as they're sailing along here. And they dropped an anchor. It was about 120 feet deep. And as the ship sailed along there, they tried again, and now it's 90 feet deep. So they decided that it would be best, rather than floating along and hit rocks or a sandbar, to just go ahead and anchor down. So they put several anchors, the sailors did, into the water. And then they prayed. Last week, and again, you can look at this, how to respond when fear hits, they prayed. seems like the noble spiritual thing to do. They were doing it out of sheer panic, okay? Sheer panic. Not out of relationship. Not out of religion. They were just panicked. People grasp for anything in the midst of knowing that they're going to die. So we see here that they prayed, but their faith is not in God. Their faith is in themselves. And it's not by what they said in their prayers. It's by what they did after the prayer. So now these sailors go over to the lifeboat secretly, and they lower this lifeboat, but they've led everybody to believe that they're just going to go ahead and lower this thing, lower more anchors, when really they're just diving into this boat and getting the hell off of it. So the ship's already damaged. Cargo and equipment's been thrown over, and they're no longer truly navigating, right? They are trying to survive a controlled crash because they're going to run aground here if they don't watch what they're doing. Here's the lesson in this. Faith is not proven by what you say under pressure. It's proven by what you do next. Faith without action is dead, right? Faith without action is dead. And so that's what we're seeing here in this particular verse. Because in the last verse, they were like, hey, we're going to drop anchors. We'll bed down here. We're going to pray for the morning. And yeah, we're good. And then they secretly go to the other side of the boat. We're going to drop another anchor. And they're really dropping the lifeboats to leave. That's the sailors for you. Because let's face it, the cargo's done. They're not going to get any money off of this boat. And it's full of prisoners. So let's save ourselves. And that's what they were doing. So much for the prayer and faith. Faith without action is dead. Real trust is not shown in a moment of prayer, folks. It's revealed in the decisions and the actions that follow. Do a self-check. And you can do this by watching other people. Do my actions reflect trust, or are they driven by fear? Because that's really what was happening here with these sailors. Fear of loss could be in your life. Maybe fear of rejection in your life, fear of betrayal, fear of being out of control, fear of being caught by something that you said that really doesn't make a big difference, but you were trying to look good in the moment. When people come to the end of themselves, they pray. But God is not a genie we turn to only when we run out of options. And if you've been on the battlefield, if you've been in horrific situations, accidents, you'll see people, they'll grasp for whatever they can. They'll call out for their loved one. They'll call out to God. They'll call out to anything and anyone because they're scared. It doesn't come oftentimes from relationship. God is not the backup plan when our plan fails. And that's a place of self-reflection for us looking at these scriptures. Understanding who God is and our identity in the great creator is the foundation we're meant to build on from the beginning, not just when we run out of options. What should the sailors have done in this case? They should have stayed and carried out their responsibility. Let's read on. But Paul, here he is, prisoner. He has no control. He has no power, okay? He's one of the other prisoners there. We make him out to be this hero, of course, because Luke's writing the story. But Paul's like, hey. He says to the soldiers, the sailors, they're leaving. And if they leave, we're all dying. And the soldiers are like, yeah. So Paul told the officer and the other soldiers, if these men do not stay in the ship, your lives cannot be saved. Why? Why? Because they're the only ones who know what to do in these kind of predicaments. They're skilled. They should have stayed in position and carried out their responsibility out of a place of integrity and morality. But they were only concerned about saving themselves in the end. Not because it felt safe that they should have stayed, but because it was necessary for them to stay. The right move was not to escape. It was the commitment to the situation that they were in. Use their skill. They were the only ones who understood the ship. They were the only ones who understood the conditions. They were anchored in at 90 feet deep. And even though the ship was damaged, they still had knowledge that mattered. And how they handled what remained was important. How to guide the approach to land when dawn broke. How to respond during that time with the anchors. They were needed to avoid sandbars and rocks. They were skilled to do that. They couldn't avoid the storm anymore, but they were needed to lead through it. Align with the plan, not their fear and self-preservation. Isn't it amazing how ugly we get when we're afraid? I'll never forget during COVID, I was walking in my local grocery store and I saw this man. There was one more package of toilet paper, one more. And he looked around. He didn't see anybody nearby and he saw me coming down the aisle and he grabbed it and he put it in, not just in the cart, in the front of the cart, and he put his hands on top of it as he pushed his cart along. I thought to myself, if you need the toilet paper that bad, bro, I'm good. But we're so scared. We're scared. We'll run scared. It's amazing what happens when storms hit in our lives. And we see the same pattern in our relationships. And I think this is another great cause to pause. It's why we study the scriptures, to see how we can live out our lives in faith and in truth. When we reflect within, we not only connect with ourselves inward, but we also connect upward, right? You know, a storm hits in a relationship, and I'm not talking abuse, I'm not talking infidelity, but a storm hits. And instead of staying anchored and working through it, the partner begins to prepare to leave in secret. Squirreling away money, not telling the spouse, looking for another place to live, all under the guise of, oh, I'm going out with some friends. Talking with some people about real estate and rentals. Moving things quietly into a storage space that's been acquired across town. Outwardly, it looks like, hey, I'm still here. Show up for dinner. How was your day? Kiss at night. But internally, it's, I'm preparing to leave. And it's very seductively deceiving. And that is Acts 27:30 in real life, right? Fear will push people to create their own escape plan. It just will. And instead of staying present and working through the storm, just like the sailors could have done, instead they decided to roll out deceptively. They didn't say, hey, we're leaving. No, they pretended. We're dropping some more anchors. They knew it was wrong. They knew they should have stayed with the ship and done what they needed to do. And that's the danger of this, because self-preservation often disguises itself as responsibility. But it's hollow, because in it there's no commitment. None. So we see this not only here, but all over Scripture, that you're promised provision from God, but you still have to work. Oh, I'm praying God will provide for me. Go turn in some applications. God has promised protection. Perhaps in your situation he has, but maybe not in all situations. People die. Witnessed a couple of days ago, a tractor trailer turned over, fatality. I was at the hospital seeing a patient, took him in for a CT scan, and I said, hey, is there any way we can get her in for her ankle for a CT through here so she doesn't have to wait? Sure, no problem. And as I'm chit-chatting with the medical staff, I hear about a DOA. It was a tractor trailer that turned over, and the driver died. And as I'm driving back to another appointment, everything's cleaned up. Police are gone. Everything's off the road. And there's a turned over trailer. And on down, disconnected, is the tractor. Didn't even realize it was there because it had just flipped over so many times. I don't know what happened, but you could tell nobody was going to survive it. Bad things happen to good people. Nobody wakes up and thinks that they're going to die at work. Does God save everybody? Does one that survives and one dies, does that mean one life is greater than the other? No, it means life happens and we're humans. Bad things happen to good people, not just because we pray or don't pray, have faith or don't have faith. We all are created in the image of God. It's throughout the Scriptures. Why would one be treated any differently than another? You might be promised an outcome, but you don't sit and wait for that outcome. You still show up and follow instructions. I hope that these verses tonight give you a reason to take a few minutes and sit in the silence and look inward. From gratitude, I normally do this first thing in the morning. I say, Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you, I have breath in my lungs. Thank you, I'm able to sit here cross-legged before you at this time of the day. Open my mind. Anything that I have that's coming up right now, I just lay that down. Whatever burdens I have, I lay them before you. I know you've already taken care of them. Give me the wisdom to make the right decisions. Give me the courage to act those decisions out. May I walk in obedience today. And as I begin to sit in that, I may have a thought that comes up. And that thought, I had a thought about who I was going to hire for a landscaping project. I sat there, thought about each one and the feeling that came with that. And I had a lot of peace about one of them. And I said, okay, then I'm going to move in that direction, right? And so far it's working out. But I just can't sit there and say, well, I'm just going to pray that somebody will come and take care of my yard. Not going to happen. I have a sick tree in the yard. And I need somebody to handle that. It's outside of my skill set. But I was able to come up with a plan. Was able to talk that out with my fiance. And we were able to come up with something that we could do. And he said, well, which one do you think? And I said, I'm going to meditate, take that before the Lord, and see what happens. And that's how we came up with who we were going to choose. So think about this, okay? I'm giving you practical ways that you can go before God, but then you just can't sit there in a holy huddle. You've got to still do the work. You still have to act wisely, and you still have to follow the instruction. What was the last thing that you know that God had instructed you to do? Then do it until the next thing comes. Next week, we're going to see what the soldiers did when Paul told them that the sailors were secretly going to drop the lifeboat. Spoiler alert. The soldiers go over and cut the ropes off the boat. Sailors ain't going nowhere. See how Paul responds to that next week. And until we meet again, may you connect with the Great Spirit, the all-knowing, all-powerful Creator. May God bless you and keep you. Make his face to shine upon you. May you walk in his love and in his wisdom, and may you generously give that which you have received from God. Good night.